Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, I'm lucky enough to chat with actor David Cade, who can currently be seen as the infamous mobster Ben Bugsy Siegel in the film Lansky, alongside Harvey Keitel and Sam Worthington. David discovered his passion for storytelling at a young age, and we discuss how film can be a form of childhood escapism, his work with the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, his first on-screen credit in the 2008 drama Milk with Sean Penn and director Gus Van Sant, and much more. It's a great interview, and I hope you enjoy.
Hi, Les. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for making time today. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So, folks right now can go and catch you in Lansky on digital VOD select theaters. I think I was probably in junior high the first time I saw a mob movie, Too Young, and really found out about organized crime and this like crazy thing that was real. And then particularly like the Murder Inc. thing, I think is just a wild story in history. Can you talk a little bit about getting the role? I personally would have a temptation to go like full Cagney on any mob role, and I can imagine that it's got to be a trick to bring that back to a human being. Can you talk a little bit about the audition and getting involved in the project?
So yeah, I originally saw the script in I think December of 2018, something like that, and I read it, and it was still in its infancy and development. And so when I read the script, I reached out to the director and said, I really want to do this role. I saw Bugsy Siegel, and to me, that was the role that I knew. That was the one that drew me, and it's the best chance I had of getting, frankly, because I don't think I look very much like young Meyer Lansky. And I thought, but Bugsy, I could really bring something to. I was really drawn to it. So I originally there was another actor attached, and the schedule got backed up, and they ended up losing him. So I submitted. Let me say something. I submitted auditions. I wrote a letter to the director telling him why I was right for it. I offered to fly out to New York and meet with him personally. And eventually they decided to go even another direction for another actor. True story. And I went, no, that's not the guy. I'm like, I'm the guy. I promise you I'm the guy. And I kept submitting. I submitted another audition tape, and the other guy came back, but he came back past the deadline, and eventually they went with me for the film. And I have been that it positioned in the wrong way. That could sound like I was like the third choice, but I got to tell you, after the director finally came back, he was like, "You've been the guy for this the whole time. I'm sorry." He's like, "You're the guy." He's like, "I've seen these tapes. We've had these other submissions. We had, there's the politicking of Hollywood, but what I brought to it and the relationship that him and I developed, I don't think I'll be fighting so hard next time for the next one."
That's great. And I mean, yeah, you always hear these stories. I mean, there's footage of Eric Stoltz in Back to the Future, and I love Eric Stoltz, but he wasn't the guy for that. And yeah, there's a lot of factors, I assume, that would go into any kind of casting decision.
Well, and also because I'm coming from the history of, a lot of my work's been in comedy recently, or coming up, Big Time Rush and these other shows, and then. I've got Into the Ashes, but it's still been a bit of proving myself in some of these more sophisticated projects.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. I'm throwing it out there.
That's great. In terms of redoing an audition for a role, did you find that you were doing something different with it? Did you think, I'll show them I could go a different way with it, or was it like a deeper, more of the same kind of thing?
I think that I was consistently, I think in prepping for Bugsy, I was consistently refining what I wanted to bring to the table. So I think the first audition, I had a different choice in some of the stuff that I was doing, and I was doing different character work with him. And then when I did the next round, I was more, I stripped away maybe some of the excess and tried to kind of make it as subtle as possible. And then I think ultimately it was all in preparation for the final performance, which I think was a blend. I think there were ultimately I chose a more nuanced tone with Bugsy, but yeah, I think that auditioning process was really about me refining what he could be and experimenting with that to get me where I eventually, got to.
I would imagine that the work of doing that, the real craft of it, has got to be a long way from when you first fell in love with movies, of watching stuff at home as a kid. And do you remember kind of when the moment was where you realized that there were really people who got up and went to work that day and made that movie or that show happen?
It's tough to pinpoint an exact moment. The thing that I always think of is watching Samuel L. Jackson as Jules in Pulp Fiction when I was probably 14 or something like that. Maybe actually I was probably younger. I was probably like 12. And I remember I was at my dad's office over the weekend because my dad could never afford childcare, and so we would always have to go into the office with him on the weekend, and we'd rent 5-6 movies for the day, and we'd just spend all day watching movies. And I think at about 13, 12, somewhere in there, watching that movie is what I remember the most, where I was like, this was just cinema extravaganza. Like, I relate to what he's doing on the screen, and I relate to, that sort of, I want to do that. And also too, I think in school, I was always kind of a class clown early on. I mean, I eventually kind of became a bit of a delinquent and they had to kick me out of school, but it started with good intentions. It started with making everybody laugh. And I think that there was always sort of this like pull to like, I could be entertaining to people. And I think that I found that channel probably watching Quentin Tarantino, and watching, films like that. Heat's another one that I really loved. And then eventually I really fell in love with theater, but my first love was in film.
Do you remember there being a moment where in college or in your first theater classes where you took on a role and went, oh, wow, this is really going to take prep. This is going to take going into some stuff. I can't just go for the laugh.
So I did a play when I was in high school, finally, because, in high school, everything's musical theater, which I did, but I did as sort of a default because I was like, I really want to do theater and I want to be an actor. And they're like, great. Have you heard of West Side Story? And I said, what? But that was really what was there for me at the time. So I did a few plays. I did Chicago, I did West Side Story. And then finally, I had a friend cast me in a production of JB.
Oh my God, I know that play.
McLeish. Yes.
Yeah. No, I was tech for JB in high school.
Really?
Yeah. No, so yeah, we were the 5 people that were mouthing everybody's lines through the whole thing. Yeah.
100%.
That's wild. I've never met anybody who knew what that play was. Sorry.
Oh yeah. No, isn't that hilarious? That's Small World. It's not a particularly well-known play, but boy, is it dark.
Oh man. Yeah.
And I got cast as JB, and for the first time, really ever in my life, I was in the spotlight. And I mean that literally and figuratively. I got to play this character that I felt had so much depth and nuance, and was dealing with sort of the highest of stakes, but also experiencing the lowest of lows. And I just really was attracted to that. And I really wanted that. I wanted character work like that. And that was my first taste of it. So I sort of have been trying to generate it ever since.
That's great. And I know one of your first credits on screen was Milk, which I would imagine working with Gus Van Sant. You might not know what kind of film you're getting into. It could be wildly experimental. It could be, Good Will Hunting. But sure, either way, sure. It's
either My Private Idaho or Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
You don't really know what you did.
But either way, it's going to be an auteur. That's going to be an experience you're going to put down in your resume forever. I mean, it's like working with Lynch or Terrence Malick or something. Can you talk a little bit about getting to be on set as a film nerd yourself? Getting to work with people that you might be a fan of.
So there's actually a really funny story behind that. So I was studying at the American Conservatory of Theater in ACT in San Francisco. And at that time, my friends refer to it as my monk phase because I was so it was really a different experience for me. Like I'd come from like combat sports and I was doing theater, and then I got into ACT and I stripped like 25 pounds and I just was the best artist I could possibly be. And I was so dedicated to class and to craft, and all I thought about was acting. And I didn't, so I get this opportunity I get called, I was doing work around town. I get an extra gig for Milk. And I get called by the casting company, and they said, yeah, it's in for tomorrow. Could you come in tomorrow? And I said, well, I have class. And they went, right, but do you want to come do the movie? And I was like, no, I've got this big scene tomorrow. I've got this big scene. I can't do it. I'm so sorry. Okay. All right, cool. I hang up the phone. I take about 5 minutes and I go, what the fuck are you doing? Oh my God. And I get back on the phone. I call it back. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I can totally come in. What time do you need me? So on and so forth. So I get there and they're shooting Harvey Milk's scene where he has his birthday. Mm-hmm. And they put the cake into his face, and they shot it at the Westin St. Francis. And I'm on my first movie set ever, and it's my first day. And we have this giant team. We've got probably about 100 extras. I'm playing, classic, the waiter. And in between the setups, young, enthusiastic acting student, I'm going in between the tables and taking everybody's order and talking to them. I was like, how do you like it? Did you like the fish? That's wonderful. Did you try the Pinot with it? Fantastic. I'll give your compliments to the chef. Also, how about another, you want to touch up for you? Is that good? How about, I have to try the lemon meringue. It's fantastic. Right. So I'm just fucking around with everybody. And I end up, the first AD ends up taking notice of me on the set. And he's like, who the fuck is this kid? And he brings me to Gus's attention. And I end up getting lines opposite of Steve Spinella, who Tony nominated. I can't remember if he won, but he for Angels in America. Mm-hmm. And Steve plays the other gay mayor that's running against Harvey at the time, who I think is in the closet, or he's much more. It's been a while since I've seen the film, but anyway, he plays that character, and I ended up working opposite of Steve, and I got dialogue in the film, just by extension of my enthusiasm when I was, running around on set. That's cool. And I got to meet Sean, who at the time was introduced to me as Harvey. He's not introduced to me as Sean. And so Steve takes me over and he goes, Harvey, do you want to meet our friend here? This is David. And Sean picks out his hand. Hi, David. I'm Harvey. It's so wonderful. Hello. Are you enjoying yourself? Oh, that's so nice. And it was just like, oh my God. I remember my cheeks got red, and I don't really get nervous, but I got really nervous and just I'm blushing. And I think that experience, I think the grandness of the hotel and the set and how big it was, and seeing that piece of movie magic, and then getting, even that small little way, just a little recognition, a little validation, right? Like, You know, if I had just stayed an extra that day, I don't know if it would have been as exciting. But the fact that just that little bit of extra work that I did that day just brought me in, you know, into Gus Van Sant's eye, where he thought, hey, this is a kid making a moment out of nothing. Let's capture it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I think those are the kind of things that you've got to carry forward when, you know, when last year when nobody was really getting to work for a minute, that like, no, I know I'm on the right path. Because when I'm myself and I go for it like myself, it works. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about, you have to get these little victories on this journey and let them kind of accumulate. And you have to remember, you know, what it felt like when you stepped on there and how it felt, you know, like home. If you don't work for a while as an actor, you've got to remember that you still got it, you know, even though we like to talk ourselves out of it sometimes.
Well, folks can check out Lansky right now and see your work as Bugsy. You've also got Swing and Shriver coming up with Michael Shannon. And, that had to have been a fun experience. He's just freaking magnetic on screen.
He's amazing. I love Mike. He's amazing. Yeah, he's great.
And can't wait to see what you do next and talk to you again. Thank you so much for making time.
Thanks, Les. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for your time.
Yeah. Have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. You too, bud. Bye.
TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.